remembered where I was at. We were at a co-op, weren't we, when I went off and told you about my children. But the reason I did that was because now I asked my adult kids, Judah's at home right now, and I said, Judah, like, what was sort of your best thing? Like, what do you think of homeschooling, and what did you think was the best things that happened when you homeschooled? And, he's kind of thinking, and I'm going to give him a little hint. How about the co-ops, Judah? You loved those, didn't you? Oh, he said, Mom, that was just for you. He said, we didn't really learn lots. It was just so you could chat with Allison. And isn't that the truth? But it was fun, and I'm glad I did it, and I would highly recommend it, even if the kids don't learn. And the other thing, then I said, well, what about, actually he came up with it himself. He said, Mom, you remember that writing class you did? And I said, yeah, excellence in writing. He goes, that, hands down, was the best thing I ever did, because when I hit university and had to crank out all these university papers, I had a solid writing background. And so that was kind of nice to know, a slight pat on the back finally. I picked the right curriculum. But at that time, Excellence in Writing, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, it's a really good program. And you know what? I send my kids to school too, so grade 10, 11, 12, they do high school. And when Jessica hit grade 10, they were using the exact same program here at Chilliwack Senior. And they were calling them dress-ups just like they did. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? The public schools now picked up on that program because it's really good. It gives kids mechanics to write, not just go write a paragraph. It tells them exactly how to do it and what the words are they can use. And I know there's other good programs out there, and I'm a little hesitant to tell you all my curriculum that I've used because I started using it 20 years ago, and there's new stuff out there. There's awesome stuff, new stuff that is out there, but Excellence in Writing is still around, and it seemed to have worked for my kids. However, Jessica, on the other hand, said, oh, I hated it, Mom. It was like my worst thing. So, and she's a good writer, but anyway, so I'll just go with Judah's story. Okay, so I'm just thinking about like kind of one of the things I did that I would recommend if you have the space in the room is to kind of try, this is just what I did. You can do what you want. But I had one covered area in our living room, because that's what you do when you homeschool. 9 feet long, 8 feet high from IKEA, 3 big huge cupboards with drawers that are 2.5 feet deep. And that is what we use for all our homeschool. Every child got a drawer for all their books and papers and pens. And then we had a whole other section for pens and paper and art and supplies. And then up top I kept lots of our books. And then in the other two I had little bins with all the toys so that the younger little person had something to do. And on the other wall I had another huge amount of books and then toys at the bottom so little people could easily reach toys. And for us that really worked. I find I tend to be quite visual, and I've noticed my girls are too. So if the toys are kind of right there and out and they can see them in the baskets, then they play with them. And the books, if they're nice and low at their level, then they'll actually pull them out and read them. They pull them out sometimes, that's just it. That's all that happens, but it's okay. You put them away again. What else? Another thing that my kids loved, and I didn't do it very often, was making them a list. So I highly recommend it, but I didn't do it that much. I would have this whiteboard, and if I would write, Judah's name on it and put the page and I'd say math, do these pages, language arts, do this, they kind of liked it because then they knew exactly what was expected of them, and when school would end would be when that list was done. And whereas I'm sort of relaxed and I tend to be, do 2 or 3 pages here, there, and everywhere. But I also have this running consciousness of all these other things I'd like them to do. And they never know when that's going to end. So it gives them less motivation to, finish math and finish English because Mom will just come up with something else, Or I have to laugh at Joseph, my grade 6 boy. Well, Mom, I did a page of math and a page of language arts and I'm done. I'm like, done? What are you thinking? And I lay in bed at night thinking about second language often, just my and how we haven't done it, right? So my solution to that, the second language dilemma, was we just moved to Mexico for a winter. Actually, we did that for 2 winters, put the kids in public school and where we stayed, and we learned lots of Spanish, so I think that covers several years. And so, yeah, we don't do too much second language otherwise. Which is, yeah, it's something you can do when you homeschool. Let's see, what else? Oh, here's another tip, sort of a practical tip. Okay, so, yeah, I was sort of saying that everyone was registered in the old days. There was no teachers. And now we kind of come into this new era of being enrolled, with most people are enrolled. Some people still register. My husband actually went back to school and became a teacher in the past few years. He graduated in 2004 from UBC. So he became our children's teacher since 2005 up until last year. And boy, that's handy. I can tell you that. You don't have to go far to show your work samples. And the best work samples, too, I might add. But for those of you whose husbands or yourselves are not teachers, my suggestion would be along Donna's lines, and that is just make your samples look good, and your teachers will be happy because they have boxes to tick that they just have to tick. And so if you can send them samples that look awesome, they're happy, and they want to be happy for the most part. They want to be convinced that you really are schooling your children. So they don't love workbook pages. I'll tell you that right off the top. You know, and just plunking workbooks in front of kids and sort of doing pages and then just taking pictures of those isn't going to cut it. But they love posters, poster boards. So what I've done, like we just did it the other day, this bald eagle came down in our backyard and ate the dead carcass of a beaver that just happened to be there. I've never seen that happen. I've lived on that creek for like 40 years, and anyway, this dead beaver showed up one day. So this bald eagle came in, swooped in, was eating it, so we videoed it. Then we went on handy dandy Pinterest and copied out a few pages. I got the kids to label some bald eagles. We colored. I put it on this flashy green poster. Actually, I didn't even glue them. I just set them on. Sure. We got raving reviews. So I just think that today's day of homeschooling, you can still do what you want. You can still do what you need to. And you can make the teacher's life easy by just sending them what they need to see. And everybody's happy, right? So that's my suggestion. Donna, you asked also in your email, how do kids respond? And I did find that different children respond differently to different things. And it's sort of a bit of a jigsaw because I'm living my life too, at the same time. And not that I want to be selfish. That has nothing. Well, it has lots to do with it, but hopefully it doesn't have too much to do with it. I find that I'm hovering over my kids in my heart, and I'm just sort of protecting them and kind of nesting around them and loving them. But at the same time, I still kind of have things that I want to do and be and see. And so how I've incorporated homeschooling into who I am is doing some of those reading things and those poetry things, and then doing projects with them that are very visual. And so I like to capitalize on some of the things that I really enjoy. And I find that when I enjoy it, they enjoy it. And most of them are, my kids, and some of them have my tendencies, at least my girls do. And they like doing the big kind of poster projects or things like when we had the fairs. They love doing those. My boys are they're more scientific. And I hate science. Ugh. I mean, I was a nurse, but biology is one kind of a science, but chemistry and physics, it bores me to death, actually. So we did very few, I guess we did some. I was a little more gung-ho in the old days, and we did do baking soda and things exploding in my kitchen, but I don't know, like you just don't have to do that much of it. Or watch cool videos. Go to Science World. Oh, that's what we have. Science Year Pass. We go to Science World, they can get messy and do all that stuff there, and I sort of feel like I've ticked those boxes then too. But let's see now, organization of my day. Well, when I was young and completely filled with myself, I used to make lists because I had time to make lists. And now that my life is screaming busy and I should make lists, I don't make lists anymore. I find that my lists, after the third baby, I found my lists would consist of take care of the children, do some laundry if you have time, make supper. And it was the same list every single day. So I quit writing the list because I usually didn't take it all off. And I don't even make lists for grocery stores. And where's Lori Cozier? You should see her list, you guys. If you want a grocery store list, she's the mother of 9 children. It's fabulous. It's out on this like double page, triple, and then she ticks off what she wants her husband to buy that day. Oh, it's great. But I don't do that. So yeah, I don't even make grocery lists unless I'm out of something, and I have to be out of it for about a month before I write it down. Peanut butter, must buy, or soy sauce. That's another big one in our family. So yeah, I shop by sales. That's what I do. If you guys go to the Superstore at 7 a.m., guess what? You'll get everything 50% off that you need. So I'll see you there, maybe. What else? Well, Judah was reading the other day. He was reading this little article on how to be frugal. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even read those anymore because I could write them. He goes, Mom, you should. But no, you can get so much if you just keep your eyes open and kind of shop at the right times or garden and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, and there's other people who are much better at telling you where to go get good food. I'm not really the best at that, but I do buy some things at Superstore on sale at 7 a.m. Okay, so let me see, what else could I say about my day? I follow blogs, just a few. I'm on Facebook. I love it. It's sort of like a little lifeline for me. I know many people don't like it or they feel like it's going to overtake their life, but I love it. To me, it's like having coffee with my friends every morning. First, I just sit down and for about 15 minutes, I wing through stuff. I like people's stuff. I check our page, our homeschool page, and I must say, ladies, we're fairly inactive on that page. We don't like anything of anybody's, and I would encourage you to like it because it's very encouraging. If you post something, it's nice to have somebody say, cool, what a great idea. Love that art project, and it's not even hard to say. But if we say nothing and the poor person comes out there and has just put up this art project, 52 people have seen it, no likes. Guess what? They don't feel like posting that often. So I would just encourage us to, if you're on Facebook and if you're on our page, like something, post something. It's way more fun and way more interactive. And I find the other groups that I'm involved in are just more that way. And I kind of think because us as homeschoolers, we all want to be wallflowers. We all just want to, see what somebody else does. Don't want to get out there, my private life and all. But I'd still encourage us just to be a little more liberal that way. So I do have coffee and I chat it up on Facebook a bit. And then we do the Holy Bible moment. I'm a Christian, and so Gord often, we chat in the morning, and then Gord will share. We read the Bible together with our kids. We wake up everybody, make sure everybody's there, even the big teenagers. And we have fabulous chats about the Bible. Like, we just read through it systematically through a different book here or there. And what I like about that method versus reading just from a little book is you kind of cover a lot of subjects that you maybe wouldn't cover. Or you wouldn't think to cover. And I love it that it gives the kids the names of places and sort of some of the wild and crazy stories of the Bible to even hear about, that they wouldn't hear about in Sunday school. So that's what we do in our family. Then usually we get started working on the kitchen table. We sold our house recently, So otherwise it was the kitchen peninsula. But we're at my mom and dad's and there is no peninsula. So we're at the kitchen table, we do some work, and then around 10 o'clock, when the kids were little, we used to, what we called, we had a hallelujah moment. And it was, I would sometimes put the timer on, and when it dinged, especially when, I'd set it, 10 minutes before, and it would ding, and everyone would know, jump up! And we would just charge around, we'd do circle dance, we'd play Simon Says. For about 5-10 minutes, we'd have a snack, and then we'd sit down and we could work again. And I found that really worked well for little kids. Simon Says was their absolute favorite. In fact, this morning, Micah came downstairs, Simon Says, wants to play Simon Says. So we did play it. He was so sleepy-eyed though. It was so cute. Then we go back to school, we do some, usually by then, I try and do the hard work first. I try and do math and writing first. Whatever, or sometimes I'll intersperse it. Math is almost always first, and then language arts. And even if I'm sick or depressed, or my life is falling apart, we still try really hard to do math, especially with our older kids, because you start getting behind in math, and it's hard to catch up, and it's discouraging. And the kids feel it too, if they're not sort of, they feel staying abreast. And I totally don't believe in working through the summer. I don't actually care where they are in their books. We take summer break. We do not punish our children for my negligence by making them work through the summer. So I try to keep them going through those books so that we don't have to do anything extra. Then usually we move often to the couch where we start to do some of our reading. I'll get little people to read to me. I have regularly fallen asleep during grade 1 reading times. I can't imagine I'm still going to have to do it again. It just is almost torture. I just can't believe it. But we do it. And fun times, the fun books, Kirsten's not here, but she sells Usborne books, and I must say we love our Usborne books. Sunlight Curriculums is the one who introduced me because they use a lot of Usborne. And like, for example, we would read a 2-page spread out of their time traveler book and then a 2-page spread out of their history book. And it was just like these little cartoon characters all doing a little something. It's sort of a bit of a story incorporated into the history part of it. And the kids loved it. The girls loved it for the story. The boys loved it for the information. And they liked the little pictures and stuff. That was great. And it only took 5 minutes, 7 minutes to read through a double-page spread, and we would just do 1 a day, and maybe 2 a day if they begged. But yeah, it was really doable, super doable. So we would do that, and then the other one, and then I usually had a read aloud that I would do to them, or read to them, or yeah. And it depended too. Like often in the evenings, we would read a novel of some sort. Right now, I just finished last night. I read to them. I don't know if you know Lauren Cunningham's book, Lord, Is That Really You? But it's a fabulous book with all these amazing God stories that really are just sort of supernatural. And the kids love to hear these kind of stories. I mean, like, the YWAM group, they're hungry, they don't have any money, and fish start jumping out of the sea onto the beach until there's 3,000 fish there, which has never happened before. This was in Greece where they picked up all these fish and sold them and ate them and made buckets of money. So anyway, those kind of stories are fun. And then we have our own stories that we love to tell as well. And this year, we have a new story to add to our family's repertoire. And it'll probably be a story that we're going to tell for a few more years. And that is our oldest son, Judah, when he was at university this past semester at UBC, he was coming home from his afternoon class, and he would do sort of a combination of taking the bus and then longboarding in between his stops. So he was longboarding towards his home, going across an intersection at a light on the crosswalk, on a green light. However, at the same time, so if he's here going across, and there's a car here that's pulled out into the intersection, waiting to turn left, just waiting, looking at the light. Well, when the light turned yellow, he just gunned it, so that he'd get across, not realizing Judah was not quite across the street yet, just about. So he hit him, going about 30 miles an hour, and just sent Judah flying off his longboard, rolled right over his longboard, broke it in half. Judah flew probably 30 feet, and it was right in front of a whole bunch of people at the bus stop, and Judah said their mouths were just like hanging open. But amazingly, Judah got hit totally on his hip, but he landed in such a way that he was just sort of like this. He didn't land on his head. He just almost not crouched, but kind of crouched, front ways, didn't bang his head, and got up. And looked around, and everybody looked at him, and then all the cars stopped, and they talked, and they said, well, should we call the ambulance? And just like, no, I'm okay. How dumb can you be? But he almost fainted as he walked away, of course, holding his longboard. And he did faint, like dead away, and has had a concussion, and he's dealing with headaches ever since. But amazingly, was saved and was not run over. Because, we had to think too, like on a longboard, which doesn't sound so great, it actually saved his life, because if he'd been walking, he would have just been stuck right under, like his longboard was stuck under, he would have been run right over. And so we just, oh my goodness, that was our story this year. We were praising God that we had this live son. And the other part of the story is that a week before, just a few days before, David, the younger brother, who's 18, he was in Hawaii at the time at YWAM, and he had a dream about, 5 days before this happened. And in this dream, he saw Judah riding his longboard at an intersection, and a car hit him. And he said, oh my goodness, I'm going to cry. He said, I saw Judah go down, and his eyes were shut. And I thought to myself, I should go pray for Judah. And so he said, I went over and I knelt down by Judah, and I prayed for him. I prayed for healing for him. And he said, Judah opened his eyes then. And he wasn't healed though, but he opened his eyes. And he said, all of a sudden, just glory, just light and glory just came down all around us. And Judah just said to David, he said, the Holy Spirit is here. And then David woke up, and that was the end of the dream. And he Skyped Judah the next day, and he said, Judah, I had this dream. And Judah's like, is that good news or bad news, But being a typical 21-year-old and everything's cool in your life and you can handle anything, he just carried on. But he did get hit. And I had to say, Lord, thank you. You went ahead of that situation, and you had your angels already there who caught Judah. Like I have no doubt in my mind that the angels were there. As my friend says, bruised angels, but they were there and caught Judah. And so, what a story that we have to add to our family stories that we like to tell about God's goodness. And as a mom, you know how you just love your kids, right? And you hover over them and you protect them with all your heart. But you cannot be there all the time, of course, right? And neither do you want to be there all the time. But for me, with Christian faith, I am so grateful that God is there and He is looking after those kids. And He gives them their own God moments that makes their lives special, and they have their own relationships with God then, and through some of these times. That kind of leads me